Today is a collaboration between SENSE and MyFinB. And our first speaker, Mr. Nazri, will be speaking first, and then we'll followed by Mr. Faiz from SENSE, and then we will have a short Q&A session after that. Okay?
Okay. So,
all right. So, Mr. Nazri, you can take over.
Thank you very much, Ms. Moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. A special welcome to all guests who have tuned in. Of course, there are some familiar, respectable faces like Dr. Vivijan. Thanks for joining us. I'm sure we can also learn a thing or two from you as we go through a very difficult moment in our life and affecting, the younger generation especially. So we also came to know that, the participants who joined us comprised of working graduates, or at least people in the workforce, for more than at least half of them from a registered attendees point of view. And then some are fresh grads, and some are happen to be entrepreneurs, right? And or students. So what we like to highlight today is when I had this little discussion with Brother Faiz, we were thinking about creating a program that would bring everybody up to speed about the difficulties and the challenges and even opportunities that exist in a very volatile economy. So the idea is really about how to survive, how to thrive, and how to navigate ourselves in a very difficult environment. So we all know that. So about a part of my presentation here talks about the reality of what's happening in the Singapore workforce. So I've been accumulating, I've been keeping, the team and I have been analyzing the trends that have been happening, right? And at the same time, we will share with you what the global industry drivers are moving towards, and which part of technology, which part of the learning, unlearning, relearning aspects that we are gravitating towards, we are moving towards. With studies based on McKinsey, PwC, and few other industry reports, as well as our own anecdotal and actual experience in dealing with stakeholders in this sector. Then, of course, the third part, which is given more time, hopefully I can go through it. If not, we'll pass it over to episode 2 or Q&A. Now, the third part of the presentation, it's about how to model ourselves. Okay, how to model ourselves against unicorn leaders like Jack Ma and Alibaba and the other 8 other unicorn leaders. If we were to extract their DNA, if we were to extract their pearls of successes, if we were to extract, how they lead, how they manage, how they thrive, how they survive in this crazy economy, right? Maybe we can learn something or two about their personality, about their leadership, about their management style that could be applied on a universal basis. So we would also get to hear whether you're from Team Jack Ma or Team Elon Musk along the way. Okay, so we are not idolizing them, but we are using artificial intelligence to extract their DNA, to understand their behavior in the last 10 years of how they built their companies, how they hire people, how they manage people, and how we could learn a thing or two from them. So it's all about learning from one another. Okay, the topic here really is very apt about learning, and whatever we knew before, we have to unlearn it, and we have to take into account new, knowledge, new experiences, and new areas of opportunities and how to avoid risks. Okay, so inshallah, with this sharing together with Brother Faiz, we'll be able to get some key takeaways from this session. So special welcome to everyone, and hopefully in the Q&A, or even as we go along in the chat box, you'll be able to share some of these things. Now, I don't need to be the bearer of bad news, but let me just go through very quickly about what's happening. In a matter of seconds, we'll go through some of these slides. So we all know that unemployment has been rising and expect to rise. Okay, thousands of jobs in Singapore will go out permanently. Okay, so these jobs will be hard to recover because structurally, it's no longer a cyclical thing. Structurally, these jobs are permanently gone, and only a portion of these thousands of jobs may be recovered. Okay, and our belief is that things only get worse in the next 2 to 3 quarters. Not just in Q2, it hasn't peaked yet for Q3, Q4. Why do we say that? It's because the handouts, right, the safety lines that the government has been giving is not sustainable. they can touch on our reserves and keep supporting welfare schemes, subsidize, right? Over and over, but this cannot last for long, cannot last permanently. So if in the next 2 quarters, you will see that if the handouts are getting lesser and lesser because reserves are being used over time, right? You will not, that means we all are left to fend off on our own, okay? So we got to expect things to get worse before it gets better. This is reality talking, yeah? So this is not a bearer of bad news. This is not me trying to dampen your spirit, okay, your day. Okay, and today's news, I happen to be in the office. I looked at the Business Times. You can see that unemployment goes down, i.e., and retrenchments go up, right? Companies are saving measures, employees on a short-term work week, 10 layoff. So for those of you who are about to graduate, for those of you who have graduated, okay, these are not likely to be a one-off thing. This will continue for at least 2 to 3 quarters. Some may even say by end of 2021, we would see some form of gradual recovery. Okay, so we all employers are saddled. Okay, your future employers, your current employers are saddled with cost-saving measures, retrenchment options, right? Unemployment by the policy, employment issues faced by the policymakers, right? And people are recruiting less, very selectively. Okay, and anxiety is picking up. We are all worried about our jobs and livelihoods. Even tech companies like Salesforce, which is a unicorn, actually had to cut about 1,000 jobs in Singapore, even as the stock market has risen in favor of them. And even for tourism and events companies, they have to axe at least half of their staff. Okay, so tourism, events, logistics, restaurants, right? We all know that it has impacted us in many ways. So this gives us some kind of reality check, okay? And we have to bite this bullet. And then once we understand the reality and not sitting back on our laurels, we are not procrastinating, we're not doing anything about it. So if you believe in being a survivor, you will take some proactive measures. And today we're gonna discuss what are the nuggets or what are the little bits of tips or hacks that we can learn from one another and see how we can move on. Okay, so the outlook for businesses is expected to worsen, as I mentioned, not just based on the survey, but based on our dealings with public, private, and even non-profit sectors, yeah? And some even suggested, well, should Singaporean workers who are already working should take up 2 jobs for better job security, right? So should you be a generalist? Should you be a specialist? Should you be relaxing on one job and take part-time grab? Or should you be taking one full-time job and multiple ventures at the side? What are the things that you need to do to make sure that the security for your job, for your career, for your livelihood are attained? So what I'm doing is basically setting out the facts and figures, and you can see that corporate bankruptcies and personal bankruptcies are rising. So, and on a personal as well as companies winding up. Okay, for 2020, you can expect this to spike as we are able to contain it because of the lifeline given by government, okay, through their reserves to support businesses from going under, okay, belly down, belly up, sorry. So the key question here is, do our recent working graduates have what the industry needs? So again, we talk about the doomsday, we talk about the challenges, right? But if we were to reflect deeper into our specific skill set, experience, portfolio, do we have that? Now, looking from a global perspective, employers worldwide expect that by 2022, okay, at least more than half, okay, of all employees will need to restart their engine, you know, or what you call reskilling and upskilling. Okay, learn new skills as well as upgrade your existing skills. And this is a very realistic and very pressing number. That means we are racing against time to make sure that we can catch up with digital disruption. We are able to catch up with the volatility of industries. We have to catch up with what companies, traditional companies now have to modernize and how to pivot their business model. Because how companies behave and develop their business model will affect you, the workforce, right? And even if you want to set up a business, you still need to think what kind of risk you're entering into and whether your solutions are really able to solve the industry pain points. Okay, so I'm going a little bit fast. Please bear with me because I just want to keep the momentum going into the crux of the matter. That is, what do industries really need? So based on a survey by McKinsey globally, you can see that business areas for organizations, okay, that have the greatest need, okay, and where there's a greatest potential skill gaps, right, will lie in data analytics, IT related, executive management on the left hand side. So in terms of soft skill, critical thinking, leadership management, as well as advanced data analysis are regarded as the areas for reskilling and upskilling purposes. So you can see that from a business standpoint, it will affect how or what type of employees and what type of skill sets are needed by employees. So with this, you can see that people want a workforce, or employees want a workforce that solve problem, not to give problem, but to solve problem. And people, organizations want the workforce who are able to lead, not just to follow. Okay, they want you to come up with solutions, they want you to lead, and they want you to be good with data. Not make decisions because I feel you feel, but make decisions based on hard data. So it's not just about mathematical, it's also about connecting the dots with various qualitative and quantitative data. And in terms of function, if you think that only IT people are affected, no. You look at it for sales function, supply chain function, those who are involved in purchasing, procurement, marketing, quality. These are areas that are deemed to be very important for you to reskill. That means if you happen to know an IT skills 5 years ago, or sales 3 years ago, or supply chain procurement just because you graduated from a diploma or degree in supply chain from a local university or local polytechnic, that becomes absolutely redundant in a sense that you have to top it up with a lot more knowledge, a lot more experience, a lot more dynamics into your current paper qualification. So leaders all over the world feel that there is a need, okay, to reskill regardless of any functions you're in. Okay, of course, the least one, if you to granularize it, you'll see that legal and HR sees the least need for reskilling. Okay, but if you go through the top 5, top 8, you can see that all of them are above 20% and moderately important. Okay, so all of them are above 50% if you to add up the light blue and the dark blue or royal blue together, navy blue. Okay, so all of them are above 50%. Okay, when it comes to reskilling in focus areas, reskilling in certain areas across functions. Okay, and employees are again through a Future of Jobs report in 2018 pre-COVID, user and entity big data analytics, IoT, web-enabled markets platform, machine learning, cloud computing. These are still ranked very highly when it comes to what employees need to move towards. Okay, which is in terms of this reskilling. So for those of you tuning in, is really how to get yourself not just the paper qualification, okay, not just the knowledge, but also the portfolio, the network, the connectivity, the mentorship, right? The advice associated with this area. Paper qualification is paper qualification, right? But you still need to develop those areas that I mentioned, the networking, the mentoring, the coaching, right? The opportunities. You can't just rely on what everybody else is doing. You got to go deeper than that. It's about being relevant. It's about new ways of doing things. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, what I've done so far is to highlight to you the key dynamics that's happening now and moving forward, the specific areas that we need to focus on functionally, sectorally, as well as soft skill wise, what we need to build up. And what we need to build up requires more than just paper qualification. I repeat again, it requires more than paper qualifications to succeed. From an employer's perspective, we've seen this. From a practitioner's perspective, we experience it, and we urge every one of us to work together to build that solid ecosystem, to build intelligence, to build the network, to build the social capital around these areas. Okay, so a little bit of sharing about what we do in case most of you may not know who we are. Okay, we are involved in AI and data analytics. We basically create a special technology that's able to predict and prescribe analysis. We work in 20 over countries in 10 AI verticals. So from Islamic banking to conventional financial analysis to social policy, social economics and policy, human capital. If you see the 10 circles on the right side, So we are basically involved in all that, and we work with multiple universities, multiple stakeholders from private, public, government, NGOs on how to use AI to lead to better decision making. So we won multiple awards simply because, not to win awards, but to showcase that the technology is unique from as far as Spain, Saudi, China, Hong Kong, Indonesia, India, and so on. So what we learned is that AI and data analytics is the way to go, and we would like to work with anyone who wants to learn about how AI actually help organizations to evaluate data and assess thousands, if not millions of scenarios to solve a complex problem. So it's really about mimicking the way the human brains think. Kalau kita nak faham, even to understand how people think, we created the neural network that mimics the way people think. And to give you a very quick idea of how it works, okay, maybe just show you have some data moving on, and then you can basically make the machine think like a human. It analyzes what happened, why did it happen, what can happen in the future, and what needs to be done. So such technologies are built, okay, to monitor and understand human behavior, to make them do things faster, better, quicker. So with the survey and the studies we showed earlier, we've been around as a group for 14 over years, and we realized that when we were too early in the game, we were very patient. We, had to do the hard way, get to know people, build the network, try to sell from far, from near, try to educate people, try to innovate. We basically tried everything that we could think of to make people think about the types of technology that are needed to make sense of data. And then we empower people with the data, they can make decisions. Okay, so just moving on. So we have a wide portfolio of products, okay, from consumer goods to HR to finance to Islamic banking to legal to stock market to education and so on. So huge portfolio, multiple industry. So what are we saying here? We are saying here that because we are in different industry groups, because we work with different customer types, we know what their pain points are, and they are so dynamic. Okay, whenever you go in as a, to claim that you want to value add to them, just like an employee wants to value add to employer, you literally have to think a few steps ahead. You have to be a leader, you have to think, what is the issues, what's the difference. So we welcome graduates who want to be equipped with the mindset, skill set, and portfolio to be involved in such projects by scanning this and speak with our team to basically know how to be involved. Okay, but moving quickly, I've got a few minutes left. I'll go quickly. Imagine you have 10 of these people, or 9. Is it 9? 9 people in a room. Put them all in a room. These are all unicorn leaders. If you to extract the DNA, leadership, financial, business strategy, what can you get from them and what can you learn from them? So we use AI to actually analyze the past 10 years about them. And in terms of strategies, this is what the companies are moving towards. This itself can be a full day program, but I'm just letting you know that if you're a company that is surviving, that's evolving, that is trying to be different, that's trying to grow, right? And grow by thousands of percent when people are dying, right? Companies are dying. These are the kind of strategies that we see in common with one another. They like to do private labels. They don't rely on other people's branding. They are very international. They build strong channels, strong community. They partner a lot. They like to acquire smaller companies. They like to, take care of their employees through health plans. They like to reward customers. They use a lot of big data. They use digital technologies, or rather, they digitalize their operations quite a bit. And they like to turun padang also. They like to do their groundwork and understand how the market feels and think. This is in terms of corporate. So these are the kind of companies that in future, when you enter them, right, if they are really good, they are really strong, they are really growing, these are the kind of elements that are quite common in that organization. Now, in terms of personality, okay, in terms of personality, they are very open, they are very passionate, they're very excitable, they like structure, they are very curious, right? And they are very positive in thinking, and whatever they do, they have a purpose, and they walk the talk. Right? There's a little typo there called adaptability. Yeah, So adaptability is extremely important in today's situation, and they are not backward thinking. They don't like to think old school. They like to think new things. So of course, what AI does is it pulls out the common characteristics, then it gives the evidence why they are modernistic, how are they organized, they like to discover new things and so on. So for all of us tuning in, right, we, myself included, right, I like to see where of these 12 elements of characteristics and strategies I could deploy and localize it for myself. Okay, so these are the characteristics of very successful people based on actual data. Okay, and if you move on to the next slide, if you're Jack Ma or if you're Elon Musk, how would it be different? You know that they are 10x, they are unicorn leaders. You can see on the left-hand side, Alibaba has lots of green. This is how AI is analyzing their companies, right? You can see that Jack Ma is a very, the company is managed in a very conservative, healthy manner. But you look at Elon Musk, right? The cowboy, right? You can see a lot of red marks, amber, you know? So the color codes tell us the level of risk that are associated with this company. And you can see both of them perform very well. And in fact, Tesla performed much better than Alibaba, even though Alibaba's balance sheet strength or financial health is stronger. Why? Because that guy is charismatic, right? Going to Mars, you know, and build underground tunnels and, you know, think of crazy things, and investors like it, and he can seem to pull it off. But in terms of financial health of his business, it's much lower. Okay, and you can see that using AI, we are able to analyze the characteristics of Jack Ma and Elon Musk. We didn't ask them to fill up survey. We actually analyzed their press release, their dialogues, their interviews, their analyses, right? And these are the kind of things that we interpret, the machine interprets, and then do a percentile analysis. So if you want to be a future-ready graduate, if you want to be a graduate, a member, a useful member of the workforce, or how to behave and perform better, right? And what sort of attributes that you need, the soft skill. So then you need to benchmark yourself. You need to look at people's character, at least the working character. Nobody's asking you to change your values. Nobody's asking you to change your lifestyle. But in terms of professional attitude, resilience, right? Sense of discovery, all can be built from there. So with that, I would like to end the session, at least for my part, before passing to Brother Faiz. There are more episodes coming up. Episode 2 is about unlocking the P factor, and episode 3 is about preparing. Once you hear the fundamentals, once you hear the news, the inputs, the insights, right? How to stay ahead and what are the next steps in subsequent weeks to come, yeah? So with that, thank you very much. Over to you, SENSE Mendaki. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nazri, for the insightful knowledge. And for artificial intelligence, the future productivity tool to assist companies to make us think better and faster, especially in such volatile times. Let us now welcome Mr. Faiz, Executive Director from SENSE, to talk more about what it means to think critically and how to learn, unlearn, and relearn.
All right, thanks, Jana. Thank you, Nazri. I think it's very nice how basically you have put the setting right, and also I'll be quoting McKinsey later, but basically it sets the stage in terms of the reason why there's a need to learn, unlearn, and relearn, and then how the whole climate, the whole economic landscape has evolved, especially in the recent times, where basically skill sets, what's needed in businesses, in the workforce, has really changed quite a bit. And what I will be sharing later today will be a bit more in terms of exactly the key skills that we want to look at, how we need to learn new things. We need to unlearn certain practices that we have and maybe relearn it in a different way. And basically it's related to, if you can move to the next slide, something like what McKinsey is doing. Basically, next slide, please. Right. I'm talking about this. I'm sorry that the slides are quite small, right? But it talks about how the evolution of skills, right? If you look at it, okay, the ones in brown are physical and manual skills. In light blue, basic cognitive skills. Dark green, yeah, I'm colorblind. Higher cognitive skills. Orange is social and emotional skills, and the light blue is technological skills. If you look at it over the years, between 2002, 2016 to 2030, you will see there is a trend. the trend shows that in terms of the requirements of skills in the workforce, you see physical and manual skills are going to be decreasing, gradually decreasing. This is a McKinsey study on the US labor statistics. And in terms of basic cognitive skills, is also decreasing, right? And however, in areas of higher cognitive skills, you notice that there is an upward trend from 21 to 22% or so, right? And then social emotional skills going up from 17 to 18 to 21. And technological skills has also jumped quite greatly. And this is because of, as what Brother Nazri has shared, workforce is changing. I think technology has shifted the way we work, shifted the skills that we need such that we can really add value to the work that we do, to the business environment as well. So what I'm going to share later on will focus on 3 key areas: the high cognitive skills, the social emotional skills, as well as technological skills, in terms of how these are critical skills that we must acquire, whether you are a young new entry to the workforce or someone who has been working for quite some time, a bit more matured. These are new things which I think is good for us to look at it and to see what else can we do to make sure that we stay relevant, we stay ahead, and we can continue to add value to the businesses or the organizations that we serve. All right. The first one is about higher cognitive skills, or what I would say is thinking critically, or critical thinking. Okay, next slide, please. Basically, there's 5 key areas of thinking critically: creative thinking, decision making, problem solving, sense making, and transdisciplinary skills. I know it's a bit wordy and so on, but I thought that I'll just focus on a few of them. I just focus on the ones in box. I want to talk about sense making, right? Rightfully, as what Brother Nazri shared, yes, we must leverage on whatever information is out there, whether it's big data, whether small insights is needed to you. It's basically how are we able to look and recognize patterns, spot opportunities, get insights, because these are the ones which helps us to make decisions. And the beautiful thing with AI and technology, right? It brings the menial work, makes it simple. In the past, we'll be opening up Excel files, we'll be opening up how do we do this, what's the trending, what's it charted, and so on. But now, if you go to Google Insights or even your Facebook, you have your own Facebook account, you can see insights in terms of how are people behaving vis-a-vis your posts and so on. And then you can make sense of things. So this skill of being able to sense make is something which is increasingly important, and something which we strongly encourage you to develop, to learn and relearn new skills from that way. Next thing is transdisciplinary thinking. So what is transdisciplinary thinking, right? It's about applying concept from multiple disciplines and bringing it together to help us guide decisions. So for example, right, if you look at it, let's say there is a problem, right? And you see it from a perspective of this is work, right? No, I need to make this process go from A to B to C. And then we try to look at it, okay, how can I make it more productive and everything? But if we can actually take ideas, for example, nature, we've been having lots of good rain and sunshine and so on. Look at the bigger ecosystem. I love to use the water cycle or the plant cycle in terms of how things are seeded, marketed, and so on, to look at how we solve, or we look at situations or challenges and try to get inspired by different ideas from other disciplines and put it in. So, but that's very big picture thingy. The other way to look at it is also in terms of we've heard of blockchain. You've heard of how basically blockchain enables transactions and so on. But now another way that they looked at it is similar technology being adopted for things like contact tracing or trace together and so on. So these are many different ways in which we cannot just look at things in one domain. People now talk about, last time they used to talk about the T skills. What is your horizontal skills and your verticals? Now they talk about your pi skills, because you should have at least 2 verticals or even 3 verticals and then 1 across. So this is these 5 areas are things which I would strongly suggest for you to look deeply in terms of how can you develop the ability to think critically, whether it's creatively, decision making, problem solving, sense making, or transdisciplinary skills. Okay, the next portion is actually the part on social and emotional skills. Okay, and this has to do with how you interact with others. Okay, next slide, please. So how you interact with others, there's basically 6 key areas about how you build inclusivity, how you collaborate, communicate, customer orientation, develop others, as well as how you influence each other. And I think the idea of collaboration and communication, just as what I shared earlier on, we look at people like M&M, Jack Ma, as well as Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk is a great communicator, and that ability to communicate, to convey ideas, information so effectively, so inspire people, right? Influence people, right? Even though your company may not has the best financials, best foundation yet, they are also doing well because of the ability to communicate and to influence others, right? So this is something which I would strongly encourage people to find ways to develop these skills of communication, influencing others. And about customer orientation, everything is so customer centric, right? It's no longer about how well your factory is laid out, right? It's now basically how well can you cater to the needs of the customer, the client that you have. So massive customization, how can you do it, right? And think, if out of the box, in terms of how can you create an environment where you can allow for that to happen. And the portion on collaboration, I think technology has actually made collaboration so much more amazing in a sense, right? In which you and I, people in Malaysia, people in India, and so on, they can collaborate without even being there in person, right? I've been in discussions where you use Miro boards, we use simple Excel sheets, whatever, right? And to come and co-create ideas, and that is that skill set is so important. It's related to the next part of it, which is very much technology related, right? In terms of how do you stay relevant, the earlier survey talks about basically technological skills. It went from 9% to 11% to 16%. Okay, so how do you stay relevant? And that part of it, next slide please, Kevin, is to do with digital fluency in terms of how you leverage on digital technology and tools, right? I think how do you stay relevant? Oh, yes. Okay. That's so challenging, all right? How do you stay relevant? Being open, listening to others, tapping in on different sources. I think being relevant is also equates to being adaptable, being flexible in terms of how you approach people. It cannot be just a one size fits all in terms of how you come up with solutions and ideas, but how to look at the different contexts, the changes that's happening, and how you adapt a solution, your approach to meet the needs. And that in itself is an important skill, adaptability, right? And adaptability on terms of using technology. I'm quite sure many of you use a lot of online media, like for example, like Zoom, all these video conferencing devices. I have Zoom, I have my God, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams. We had GoToMeeting. We had one which was using an Amazon system as well, right? So it's so many things, but the idea of it is, are we able to adapt, and are we able to use these tools such that we can do things more efficiently and facilitate information sharing. I love the idea of using Trello Kanbans, because especially now when we are working remotely, it's very hard to know what's going on. And I know the most irritating thing, I think, for me, is when people keep asking you, so what's the update? What's the update? And I hate to ask people that. So please put it up for us. I'm trying to get us to use the Google Chat or use the Trello, just so that basically I don't want to ask you, I just want to see the data. So you put it there, I'll find it when I need to. Yes, Trello, yes. Okay. In terms of learning agility, it's I think it's one is yourself to be able to learn using on different platforms, whether it's video, whether is it through sharing, whether creating blogs and so on, right? Or from an organization perspective, right? How to ensure that there is flexibility in learning within the organization, right? I can't always send my staff for training, but how do you create opportunities for people to learn, right? It could be in the form of case conferences, it could be in the form of simple little projects, video sharing, and so on. But being able to use technology, right, and help you to create that transparency and sharing of data, that's so critical. So I know I'm jumping all over the place, but I have a next slide which kind of sums it up. So the next slide basically talks about the critical core skills, right? And these are the skills to build skills. I'm selling a bit of koyok here for Skills Future Singapore, right? But basically, if you look at the McKinsey survey, the three things which are growing is basically thinking critically, ability to higher cognitive skills, interacting with others, how you communicate your social emotional skills, as well as they talk about technology, and then that's what staying relevant. And I think within this 16 critical core skills, there is so much that people need to learn, unlearn, and relearn, right? And something which at Mendaki Sense we are very big on, and then we definitely want to build up more programs along these areas, because we feel that our workforce needs to have these skills. Yes, you can develop it yourself. You don't need to attend a course, but at least acknowledge that there is a plan that I need to develop. For example, my ability to sense make, my ability to collaborate with others or to influence others, and to have that level of digital fluency. And when those targets are set, right, then you can start to put it together. Because I think that the challenge that we all have now is we have too many options. There's so many options out there. You go to My Careers Future portal, there's thousands of jobs. You know how to choose. The courses, there's so many courses online. You're inundated with courses, and thanks to the government, you give you money, free training some more, right? So how are you able to identify what are the core skills that will allow you to stay employable, that keeps you ahead of others, to make sure that you are relevant going ahead, right? So to summarize it all, basically, these are the 16 skills to build skills, which it's very fresh. It's about only less than 2 months old. And these are the things, even if the government doesn't come out with it, right, it's something which you should explore, which you should find out who's doing all these programs and find ways to empower yourselves. And it will definitely help you in terms of enhancing your employability, and also helps you to navigate the challenges that's coming up, right? That's it for my slides. I'm ready to welcome any questions or any queries that you all have. Yep. Thank you. All right. Let me see what's in the chat.
Sorry, Brother Faiz, it's mainly me summarizing our points and
Yeah.
your points together.
Yeah, I noticed.
May I raise 2 points, Faiz?
Assalamualaikum, Dr. Ustad.
Salam. Thank you very much. 2 points, probably if I can get responses from our 2 panels. One is I have interest here with regard to the Asatizah, our religious leaders. I'm happy to note, Mr. Nazri, about some of the data that you shared, especially in the area of AI and IT. I wonder how can this group of, how can Asatizah value add to this industry? They come from certainly a certain background, and I do not foresee them simply contributing like any other people, but what is that value addedness that they can contribute? What specific areas that they can possibly consider, and for them to sort of consider a professional conversion? And Faiz, I'm sure Faiz is very familiar with this argument. I've discussed this with him and also CEO a number of times. So if you can help me understand that, and then therefore we can communicate with our Asatizah, these are some of the areas that they want to consider. That's one. Secondly, on the higher cognitive skills, critical thinking, and so on and so forth. I argue, unlike other technical skills, that probably by attending workshops, a certain number of hours of workshop, you may be able to pick up these skills. But the softer skills will require a longer time. You will not acquire this only by attending one workshop, 1 day workshop, or even 1 week workshops. This is habits. These are habits of the mind. These are attitudes. These are cultures in your life. And under the current circumstances with pandemic and so on and so forth, I'm not sure whether you attend SENSE MyFinB course on critical thinking, and then you leave the course and they become a critical thinker. That's right. So is that? Yeah. If you can do that, then great. We have a great Singaporean. We got a great Singapore, right? So in fact, many of these, I mean, I know that Dr. Vivijan is here as a teacher. We talk about this creative and critical thinking for decades already. I remember during the early days of Thinking School, Learning Nation, we have all this. And recently, and not quite recently, we also talk about 21st century, and we talk about all these qualities, skills that we mentioned. Now, after all this, and I'm sure that schools have attempted to introduce and develop these habits, and now we are in the pandemic. So have we been successful? If not, then what happened? What are the areas that we can improve on? And I don't think that, okay, if we have not been that successful, and then by attending SENSE MyFinB or Mr. Nazri's company, then we'll develop that skill. So what is it that we need to do more, or we cannot be doing the same thing expecting a different result, right? That's really insanity. So how then you develop such culture? And time is running out, else we will miss the boat. So what's your thought on that matter? Thank you very much.
Okay, so Brother Faiz, you want to take first, or you want me to go first?
I can take you first, and then you can answer the. All right. So
okay,
right. Okay. So thank you, Dr. Hanan. Okay, for the question. I think it's true. Definitely, in terms of the interpersonal skills, the social emotional, I think courses they just give you the cognitive element of it, right? It comes out a lot through practice, and that's where basically if you talk about workplace learning, you talk about there's this thing about how basically what you learn, 10% is through the courses, 20% is coaching, mentoring, 70% is actually when you talk about on the job or on the job experiences, right? So that's where basically if you talk about that, it has to be a lot to do with how you find interventions where you coach and you get people to develop that practice, as you said, habits, right? So that will be a better way to develop or to inculcate certain values of behavior. I always remember my time when I was in the army. I was in the army for 10 years, and whenever they ask about 7 core values, right? And I would say the 8th core value is drink water, because they just repeat it, but they don't understand it. But the inculcation of values and behaviors has a lot to do, not just about telling them, but also in terms of how we practice, how we emulate it. And this is veering off topic. There's this thing called Management 3.0, which is quite a new movement in the past 2 years. And I think it's something which people should always to look out for in terms of how do people communicate, how do people interact, in terms of how you don't manage people, you manage work, right? And then you motivate people, right? Because the thing is, I'm very much a theory Y guy, not, in Herzberg theory X and Y. I believe that people are motivated to do well. And the only thing is that we need to help them to manage the work, to make it more transparent, makes it work better. And then you start to motivate people. And that's where the interpersonal skills comes about, because technology enables the management of work to be more efficient so that we can focus on motivating people or helping people to solve challenges that they face. Yeah. So that's my take to that in terms of the critical course, how you do it. It's not just training, for sure. Yeah. Nazri.
Okay. To answer the first question for Ustad, is that how can Asatiza value add to the the industry, the sector, or be involved in RR 4.0, anything to do with AI, digital disruption, right? So I like to first of all classify the sort of like the profile of Asatizas that currently, not just in Singapore but in Malaysia, those are studying undergraduates and those are already working, right, who are working professionals, helping out in madrasas and working even in conventional jobs. So to me, within our organization, we always believe in digital transformation. So it could be using analytics to help in socio-economic matters, i.e. transforming asatizas to become researchers, to find out in the past 10 years, what are the common challenges, to derive data, to collect data, to analyze with the machine, what are the trends that impact the community, how to progress the community. So these days, for everybody's knowledge, right, machine can do 80% of the heavy lifting of research work, any research work. It could be a PhD work, MBA work, it could be a study, white paper and all that. Machine can do between 60, at least 60, up to 80% of the heavy lifting of research. So it can produce the abstract, it can produce the trends, it can produce the sentiments, it can produce the word linkages, word relationships, word clouds, and identify the trends that comes out of it. So asatizas can be involved in it by providing, their knowledge, their depending on which category of asatiza, right? Whether you're still studying, whether you just graduated, or you're already working. So they can provide a lot of research inputs, number one. Number two is that they can also be involved directly into the technology transformation without having to know programming, without having to know Python or R, right? Or SAS, SES software. Okay, even if they don't know that, there's a way for them to create the logic that then fits off the programming codes and algorithms that we in our organization produce. So people, asatizas don't need to learn programming to become data scientists. They don't to be a programmer or coder to become data analysts. So we believe that asatizas can be transformed, reskilled. Okay, the topic here is about reskill and upskill, right? Can be reskilled, upskill to become data analysts, to analyze socio-economic matters. Now, another second point that our group has been involved, which is extremely exciting. To me, it's like my dunyawi, ukhrawi, balance mission, is that have you ever even thought that Quran is actually big data, right? There's a lot of data in Quran, correct? In hadith and all that. So, and we as working people, entrepreneurs, we're not full-time, we don't study full-time the religion. We don't have the ability or at least the opportunity to learn from morning till night every day, but we are working and managing. So what our group is doing now is to work with asatizas in Malaysia and hopefully in Singapore through your connection, Ustaz, is that we are doing the analysis of Quran and analysis of people, individual. So what does it mean? It means that we have a technology that can profile human beings. Then today I feel sad, today I feel angry, today I feel arrogant, today I feel proud, today I feel sad, right? Or depressed. It will automatically read my personality and my behavior, and then it pulls out the relevant Quran verses, the chapters, the surah that is relevant to advise me and guide me when I'm feeling in a certain way, in a certain day or the week, in a certain month, So every day, diam tak diam, I'm actually going through the Quran as a way of life. Okay, so that whatever I'm feeling right now, the machine is intelligent enough to understand my social behavior, my thinking, my analysis, my chats, my WhatsApp chat, right? My conversations, my social media postings. It's able to pull it out and it's able to analyze. And then it pulls out. It doesn't alter the Quran, at all. Based on each human being's personality, thinking, attributes, mood of the week, mood of the day, right? It pulls out the relevant verses and chapters and the surahs, right? And pushes out to you, to your mobile, to your phone, to your email, to remind you. Okay, nak kesabaran, okay, dengar cerita Nabi Yunus, that kind of thing. So, so these are the kind of things, or sacrifice, on the diverse prophets, diverse rasul dan sebagainya. So we are able to connect ourselves to the teachings of the Holy Book in relation to our day-to-day life, which is fluctuating in a very crazy situation, right? So this is something that our group has already begun, and we are studying and working with as many asatizas as possible so that we can democratize, we can make it available for everybody to understand Quran and apply to their day-to-day life. Right now, it's either you memorize them or you sit for classes, and then, day passes by, all busy people will struggle to balance their time between understanding, reading, memorizing, and fahaming Quran. Yeah, so these are the kind of things that the two projects that they can value add. One is to become data analysts, so asatizas who are can be trained to manage data and let the engine produce the AI engine produce the analysis even more, and then the humans can value add to that. Second is to create a science, the teaching behind Quran to our day-to-day life. Yeah, so these are just two of the many examples I can share at this point. Specific examples. Thank you, Ustaz.
If I can add on to Brother Nazri, I think the key part on it is basically now people talk about their fear of AI and technology and so on, but actually the work that we are doing, we need to humanize work or humanize technology, in a sense, humane technology, and that's where I think the value of people of different expertise, be it asatizas or other fields, social work and education and so on, where you look at it in terms of how you translate data, because data is, well, it's this data, but what does it mean in terms of to the human being, right? Because in the end, the consumers of data will be humans, right? So how do you humanize the element of technology that presents to us these opportunities? And you go back to the table I gave, it's about the human part of it. There's the high touch, the high trust part of it, which humans need to play, because in all forms of work that we do, there's three key elements: high touch, high trust, and high tech. Right. So in an example of you go to doctors, right, and then you say, oh, technology can scan the body to know whether you have certain diseases and everything, right? But you wouldn't want the computer or robot to tell you. You rather have a human being, a human doctor to tell you, because there's empathy part of it, right? The ability to communicate and then to balance the approach. That's the high trust part of it. And then the high touch in the end is, I guess in the end, it's always comforting being a human to know that there's a human being behind, even if you use different tools and robotics, right? That someone is there caring for you and then helping to do that final work on you. So that's a part of it. So I really believe what Brian Nazri doing is wonderful. I think it's a very wonderful application of technology in terms of how it empowers us, instead of just telling us what next to buy in your Shopee, right? But to also to tell us basically what to read, right? I think you are all inundated with what to buy recently. So for this, I've been shopping a lot. Yeah.
I think, Brother Faiz, you hit the nail when you said that earlier on. There are many courses available, right? Thousands of courses, thousands of programs, thousands of options. So the idea is, instead of you manually search thousands of all these options for you, the machine can be smart enough to look at your situation, for example, okay, your ambition, your aspiration, your relevance, your shortfalls, your strengths, So once you're able to profile you as in the applicant, right, then it's able to plow through the thousands of courses or database of courses and then try to do a matching. It's all about matching, right? Matching based on demand and supply. Now, likewise, on the spiritual side of things, right? On the spiritual side of things, yes, beyond indexing, absolutely. Beyond tagging, beyond indexing, it has to have a certain, what you say just now, cognitive capability. A technology is very smart when it has cognitive ability to analyze, explain, right, make decisions, or at least recommend actions. So this is the kind of technology that we as a Muslim community, Malay Muslim community, should move towards. And again, we don't have time to learn Python and R and all that. Trust me on this one. The Indians, the Vietnamese, the Indonesians, the Malaysians even, and the Americans and the Israelis, right, are faster than us by leaps of years. So you want to study Python, you want to study R, good for you. As a hobby, as something to just learn how to appreciate the mechanics of programming or doing AI, yes. But to create breakthrough technologies, we are behind. Okay, I'm again potentially saying something controversial here, but what we can do better, okay, what we could have done comparatively better with a comparative advantage is the ability to create the design thinking. That means you make the programmers or coders do based on your architecture. Focus more on the architecture. Don't focus more on the coding and programming. We are severely underrepresented and severely behind. But in order to create a more level playing field, we should sharpen our design thinking, design sprint, design leap our thought processes and solve problems, i.e. focus on architecture. So architecture solutions where programmers can then, spend time doing what we tell them to do. because I sit on the board of governor for Republic Poly, and we continuously see a lot of diploma in AI, diploma analytics being created, being developed, being formulated. But a lot of it are all hard technical stuff. Very little emphasis that I see about solving industry pain points, organizational pain points, right? So we move towards, understanding the problems, the issues, and using technologies to solve them rather than knowing how to code. So knowing how to code is good, but beyond that, there's a lot of open platform that allows you to put your rules, put your logic, and then it creates the programs for you. So there are many examples that I can share in subsequent episodes. But I think suffice to say that Asatiza does have a place and can become extremely value adding by tapping on their research, their knowledge, and turn them into data analysts. Be familiar with data. That's a starting point. Once they're familiar with data, you teach them how to connect the dots to solve industry pain points or community pain points, right? Then the technology will plow through the data. Hopefully in the subsequent episodes, we'll be able to share with you some of the examples of socio-economic trends that Asatiza can play a part. Not just Asatiza, but any of our Malay Muslim graduates that want to become data analysts. When I say data analysts, means not data programmers, not programmers or coders, but using data to make decisions. Who is very quiet. I see many attendees, but feel free to ask any questions, yeah? If you are shy, please post that in the chat box. I'm sure we all won't bite. We will try to help you, not just during this webinar, but even after the session or even the next webinar session, yeah?
Mr. Nazri, this is the best opportunity for our people here to talk, because if we cannot even talk, we don't have platform to share, we don't even have, we cannot even intellectually discuss then how to develop the social capital, intellectual capital. I think this all require a lot of, initiative, ground up initiative, not just top down, but also ground up initiative, like what you, Mendaki, SENSE are doing, mashallah.
Assalamualaikum everyone.
Waalaikumsalam.
Okay, I do have questions. I'm a recent graduate last year, and I do teach freelance in in the mosque and also on my own time. Yeah, it's indirectly indirectly working with the mosque. Yeah, so just from my observation, it's not a question, but also from my observation as a recent graduate and also as a teacher, I observed that a certain percentage of our own community, specifically in Muslims, they are illiterate. That's I think that's the biggest challenge for myself. Because my own students are from the range of as young as 7 years old, and then the rest is like about 30 to 60 onwards. So how can data or how can technology help them in future? Like you said that using technology to see trends in them, but I'm quite traditional, although I'm in my 20s, but I believe in the traditional ways where we continue speaking and continue communicating via the traditional way, like meeting up. But some of them are shy and some of them are illiterate. There's a huge gap in between to actually communicate with them, to actually get the knowledge and information to them so that they are able to understand on their own language. Yeah.
Okay, so just to be clear, illiterate means technology illiterate or language literate, or
can be
what sort
both.
of illiteracy?
Can be both also, but more towards illiterate in terms of language.
Language, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe Brother Faiz, you want to take this first from the education angle? Then probably I can comment on the learning roadmaps and learning styles and all that, learning technologies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks, Nazri. Thank you for the question. I think if you talk about people's they not wanting to go forth to learn, and there's something which sense in our work with our community, right? Also notice that there is a bit of hesitation for people to go take up courses and programs and so on. So what we do is we are starting all these little workshops to try to get people to make access to learning a bit easier, a bit lighter, and to let them to realize that basically it's quite fun, right? And it's quite easy to do. Because from our own experiences, sometimes people are not going for like to take up to learn things because of previous fears. They have previous concerns in terms of alamak kena pergi kursus, kena test, and malulah saya tak tahu and everything. But to let them know that learning now is not like learning in the past, because learning in the past kadang-kadang kena marah, kena cikgu and everything, right? So it's very different. And this is the shaping of, as what Dr. Biu just said, shaping their mindset, their mental model, in terms of saying that actually learning is something which is, well, for everyone, and it's knowledge now is different. Knowledge is everywhere. It's your willingness to open your heart to knowledge. And I'm also a firm believer. My traditional part of it is I believe that knowledge cannot just be acquired from reading. Reading, yes, gives you something, but the context only happens when you learn from someone, when there is a teacher there to guide you and to have that interaction, and that's when real learning happens. And so for that point, in terms of overcoming the challenge of people wanting to step forward to actually learn, is to give them baby steps, give them teasers, bring them little bite size, such that they feel, hey, this is comfortable. I'm comfortable with you first. I trust you first before I want to take things from you. Yeah. So that's my take to that. Yeah. Nazri?
Yeah. In situations where you are dealing with illiterate students or students with learning disability or learning inadequacy, surely the human touch comes in more important than any other form of technology, the engagement, the touch. So no disagreement on that. However, when you are dealing with one-on-one or 1:20, right, staff to student ratio 1:15, that's considered manageable. You can still, meet the adequate touch point. But when you have an increasing number of illiterate or educationally challenged students, right, you cannot use a manual approach of dealing with each one of them. It's like a bell curve. You know the best, you know the worst, but in the between, right, you will find it very hard to track, okay, the performance of the students. So hence, technology can be used to help teachers, good teachers like yourself, traditional or not, okay, you will need some form of reporting or evaluation tool to evaluate your profile of your students. So, for example, if mathematics is a common problem faced by our community for the longest time, okay, so how do we use MOE math curriculum that measures attitude, that measures metacognition, right? Can you scroll down? That measures skills, that can measure, let's say a cohort of, let's say 700 students that's learning mathematics. Can I scroll down, please? Yeah, so you can basically go through the attitude, metacognition skills. Yeah, can you control the slide downwards? Concept. Okay, so it may be math today, it could be science tomorrow, it could be, a study of religious knowledge and so on. But the curriculum or the topic in each syllabus, right, can be captured. And you can create this auto-generated analysis to see how the student perform, their strength, your weaknesses. What if I tell you such technology exists that can help analyzing 400 students faster, better, quicker? And then instead of you interviewing every of the 400 students, right, the machine will be able to interpret what the students are feeling and thinking. So it writes all these things on behalf of the students based on their performance, based on their limited feedback, right? You know their strength, you know their weaknesses for each of the topic that they are in, okay? Next one, then you can even look at the impact of learning before intervention, during intervention, and after intervention. So there's a little bit of evidence to show these are actually based on actual figures of people who struggle in math. So before, after, and at school, how do they reflect the improvement? And then after that, it will create a personalized learning. So if you're dealing with illiterate students, right, or students who are challenged, you know, in terms of learning disability, you will be able to have them put up through this, monitor their progress. Everybody learns differently, even though we can call them illiterate, right? But different people have different, what do you call that, granular or different level of extreme, what do you call that, situation, right? Severity of learning or not learning well. So these are become personalized learning, and you can use this to guide and create a personalized learning roadmap for each one of the students and guide them. So you can cover, instead of 4 students, you can cover 400 students, much better, quicker, and more effectively. Okay, thank you for that, Miza.
So yeah, next session is on 6 October. Yeah.
Which is on the key to unlocking your P factor in the workforce. What is P? Tune in to hear more. What is that P factor? All right, that's episode 2. And then episode 3 is the step-by-step approaches on how to be ready for the workforce, right? And the workforce of tomorrow, not the workforce that you think existed 3-5 years ago still remains the same. So we have to show you the changing environment of the workforce for episode 3. Episode 2 about you as an individual. What is that P factor that's necessary for the workforce? So we'll crack our heads together, yeah, Brother Faiz, and then
yes,
hope to share our points better and then put across to you guys and ladies. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, thank you everybody. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.